Hey everyone, Gavin here. So I just got back from Dollywood the other day, and what better thing to do than make a review on arguably the most iconic coaster in the park. I'm talking about the Wild Eagle. So the Wild Eagle might just look like your standard B&M wing coaster, but you'd be mistaken to think that. To simplify things with this review, I'm going to be trying something new out. Instead of ranking the coaster in 4 different categories like I did with the Incredible Hulk, I'm going to be talking about my overall thoughts on this coaster. So before we get started though, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Now here we go. So if I had to summarize this coaster in one sentence, I would say that it has a different feel than other wing coasters due to some of the choices that they made with this ride. One of those is with the visuals, and the other has to do with how some of the elements are executed. Let's start off with talking about the first impression this coaster gives off. I'm not talking about the ride experience just yet, but rather the first visual impression it gives off. And let me just say it gives a dang good one. Dollywood is located in the beautiful Smoky Mountains and Pigeon, so the park's terrain is naturally hilly, unlike your typical theme park that you'd find in Florida. This forces the designers to make rides that complement and work with the land. This leads to lots of terrain coasters being present in the park, and Wild Eagle is no exception. The park is basically one giant loop around a big hill, and that is exactly where the Eagle is located. You can see the coaster soaring above the tree line as you park and walk into the park. Also, as you walk around the park, you can see riders soar above the tree line. The coaster's height along with it sitting atop a hill make for some really neat visuals. However, due to the tree line, it is hard to see parts of this coaster besides the top of the lift hill and a couple of the inversions. I think this is best summarized with the lift hill. The coaster has a height of 210 feet, but the first drop is only 135 feet. This is actually due to the fact that you start your ascent towards the bottom of the giant hill, and the first drop takes place at the top of this hill. To get to the ride, you first need to walk to the back of the park. There's 2 ways to do this, either cut left by Thunderhead or right towards the gristmill. Most people will go right and head straight for the RMC, but if you go right and instead pass Jukebox Junction, then turn left and cut through Craftsman Valley, you will end up at Wilderness Pass. You know when you get to the Wild Eagle when you see the metal eagle statue, which makes for a fantastic photo op. To the right of the statue, you will see the coaster and the loading station. The station is simplistic and feels nice and new, which makes sense since this coaster opened in 2012. When you board, you will notice the trains are themed as a pack of bald eagles. This is where the genius of Dollywood's creative team comes into play. They wanted a B&M wing coaster that would dominate the skyline, but needed to make sure it fit into the area. So what did they do? They made the coaster and trains themed to eagles soaring through the mountains and above the park, with you riding on the wings of the eagle. Bravo, Dollywood, bravo. So let's move on to the ride experience itself. Once you exit the station, you climb the lift hill. Due to the height of this hill, you get some fantastic views of the park and the surrounding mountains. You then plummet down a 135-foot drop into your first inversion, a vertical loop. The interesting thing about this drop is that it is not a wing over drop. It's just a standard drop. You then enter a 0G roll and immediately dive into an implement. A corkscrew follows, and then you end the ride by going through a couple helices. I only got to ride in the front on my last trip, so none of these inversions pulled any massive forces to me. But that is typical with these wing coasters when you sit in the front. So if you want to feel any forces, I would recommend sitting in the back, but you will sacrifice the views. And personally for me, that is what this coaster's main draw is. If you want to ride an intense steel coaster, Tennessee Tornadoes has a higher top speed and is more forceful. Although this ride is pretty forceless, this coaster is very smooth and enjoyable. B&M coasters are usually some of the smoothest coasters out there, with even their roughest coasters being comparable to smooth coasters from other manufacturers. So is the Wild Eagle my favorite coaster at Dollywood? While the GP probably thinks it is the best, I personally like Lightning Rod and Tennessee Tornado more. For it to top Lightning Rod for me, the Eagle would have to break into my top 5, so it would require a lot. Now for the final score. Although it isn't my favorite coaster, I give the Wild Eagle a solid 8.5 out of 10. The theming is good, the ride is smooth and a fun time, and the views are just magnificent. I would recommend riding this coaster when you make a trip to Dollywood, which I highly recommend doing. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.